Welcome to our house, the House of Fi. At the House of Fi, we are all about achieving financial independence for families. Wherever you are in your financial independence journey, we want our house to be a place where you can learn and get inspired. If you are a parent on the journey to Fi, then come on in. We're glad that you're here. Here are your hosts, Wendy and Tamika.
Welcome back, House of Fi family. Today on the show, we are going to be speaking with Tom Sylvester of Lifestyle Builders. Tom and his wife, Ariana, are entrepreneurs and business mentors. Tom has been a side hustler since he was a teenager and launched his first real business at age 22 when he started a real estate investment company. He and his wife own several businesses, including a wine and liquor store, their podcast and coaching business, as well as their real estate investing business. They have helped thousands of entrepreneurs and business leaders achieve their success goals. They do that through their podcast, their mentorship program, and their coaching and mastermind programs. They are also in the process of releasing their first book in 2019. Y'all should be on the lookout for that. They live in Rochester, New York with their 2 children. With that, I am pleased to welcome Tom to the show. Again, guys, remember this was recorded at FinCon, so there is quite a bit of background noise, but it's still a great interview with lots of amazing content. We hope you guys enjoy it. Hey, House of Fi family, before we get into our great interview, I just wanted to let you know that we have an awesome 21-day money challenge on our website that if you are maybe struggling to find savings in your budget or struggling to find extra money to pay off debt, or you just need to kickstart your mindset, this challenge is for you. Tamika and I worked really hard on it. It's a great offering for you, and it's totally free. So we'd love for you to dive into that, join our Facebook group, and you can ask us any additional questions you might have or maybe get some support. All right, so now let's dive into our FinCon Friday episode. Hello, House of Fi family. I am again here recording live from FinCon 2018, and I'm so excited today. I'll be talking to one half of Lifestyle Builders, Tom
Sylvester, just like the cat.
Tom Sylvester. I was going to say Sylvestrian. I'm like, that's not right. Well, Tom, tell me a little bit about who you are and a little bit about what Lifestyle Builders is.
Absolutely. So, long story short, my wife and I met the first day of college, and 4 years of college was great. She went for zoology, I went for computer science, and as we were getting ready to graduate, I started looking ahead, and I started looking at what our lives were going to look like, and pretty much what I saw I didn't like. I was like, I don't want to sit in a cubicle for the next 45 years, and she was struggling to find a job with her zoology degree, and we had a lot of student loan debt. And so at that point, I didn't know how I would do it, but I said, by 35, I want to be retired. And so when we graduated, Ariana just thought, it's just another one of Tom's ideas, it'll fade. And it didn't. So basically, I set out to figure out how do we make us be able to retire at 35. And she wasn't on board, but I was like trying all these different things. I was like the stock market, except we didn't have the money. I tried like MLM and different things that just didn't jive. And finally, I found real estate. And so I told her, I was like, well, let's buy a duplex. We'll live in one half and we'll rent the other side out. Great idea. She wanted nothing to do with it. So I was depressed. I was working my job, and I'm like, we're never going to be able to make this work. And I heard an ad on the radio for this real estate training, free 2-hour training. I went to that, and then it was like a 3-day training. I went to that, and then they were selling this like really expensive high-end training. And so at that point, we were in student loan debt, we were in credit card debt. We just had gotten our jobs, so I was like, I can't afford this. And then I had this little like thought in the back of my head, like if I don't do this, we're not going to make it work. So I ended up putting the training, which was $7,500, on 2 high interest credit cards because it wouldn't even fit on one. And I did all of this without telling Ariana. And this was about 9 months before we got married.
Oh no!
So when I told her, we had to have a lot of conversations around like, hey, what's going on? How did we get so far off, being aligned? And so ultimately I said, well, I got to now pay this back, so I better get into real estate investing. So that was our first business. A couple of years later, we started a wine and liquor store, basically because I got the entrepreneurial itch and I wanted to diversify. And then we had our first daughter. And then fast forward a couple of years, I was doing corporate consulting and I was traveling 4 days a week. And we had our son. So basically, I was gone 4 days a week to different cities helping businesses. We had two of our businesses at home, and then Ariana was raising her two kids, and it was just chaos. So we reevaluated things and we said, is this the life we want? And it was clearly no. So we had, at the same time, a lot of entrepreneurs reaching out to us saying, can you help us start a business? And we realized that we could help people just like us start businesses in support of their ideal life. And so Lifestyle Builders came from that, not just to help entrepreneurs, but to help them build the business they need for the life they create.
And how long have you been doing that?
That's been about 3 years.
Okay. And then, so you talked about some student loan debt, and you talked about, of course, the credit card debt. What was your money history? So how did you grow up? What were your parents' views about money, and how did that translate into?
Absolutely. So we came with very different backgrounds. So we both came from divorced families. She was divorced her parents were divorced when she was young. Mine were when I was 12. And so her views was her new parents afterwards, or her two moms, they both had very good paying jobs. So they took care of everything for her. She didn't have to do anything. Me, on the flip side, I lived with my mom, and we had my two sisters. And my mom made like $32,000 a year trying to support three of us. And she ended up getting into $40,000 a year. And so when I was in high school, I ended up having like 3 different jobs. I ended up getting my own apartment at 17 and supporting myself. So when we got together, we had very different backgrounds and views on money. But what we decided was that we were just going to pool it together because we're building life together, and then figure out together how we would spend.
And where in you two getting together and getting married, where did you find financial independence in the community?
Yeah, ironically, when I spent all that money in the real estate training, there was a game that we got as part of it called Cash Flow 101. And so when I played that game, the first time I played it was kind of weird. I was the doctor, and I'm like, oh, this will be great. I'm making all this money. It'll be easy to get out. And we were playing the game. We were like 20 minutes in, and somebody's like, oh, I got out of the rat race. And I was like, how? I'm so far away. And for anyone that hasn't played the game, basically, you have to have your passive income exceed your expenses to get out of the rat race. And as a doctor, I needed to make like $10,000. And somebody else playing got out really quick. And I was like, what's your job? And they're like, I'm a janitor. And I'm like, how did you get out of the rat race as a janitor? And when we looked at it, his expenses were so low that he didn't have to make money. And so at that point, I went back and looked, and we had all this debt. And I looked at our expenses, and I'm like, it's going to take us forever to get out of here. But if we can reduce our expenses while also increasing our income with these businesses, we can get there a lot faster. So that's when I started looking around, reading more books, getting connected to people online, and we were able to use the extra money from the businesses to pay off the debt, and then ultimately allow both of us to leave our jobs.
How was Ariana on board with that when you initially brought the idea to her? How did you get her on? What was that? Those discussions like?
So eventually, usually what happens is I'm the person that will read a book, talk to people, figure things out. And then usually I would run to Ariana and be like, this is what we're going to do. We're going to invest in real estate. We're going to open a liquor store, or we're going to pay off all this debt. And her initial reaction is like, what, are you crazy? And then eventually we would talk through it. And the biggest thing that we found was, instead of talking about like what we wanted to do, like pay off debt or start a business, it got back to talking about what we wanted our lives to look like and why we wanted to do it. And so when we got to the debt conversation and kind of getting into a better financial position, we talked about what we wanted things to look like in the future. And then that helped us to then backtrack and figure out how we would get there. And that's one of the biggest things that has helped us, and that we then help other people with, is we created this 2-page, what we call a life planner. And it's like, what do you want you and your family's life and legacy to look like? What is your vision? So the things you want, the experiences you want, the relationships you want, and the impact you want to make. What do you want your ideal day to look like? And then a roadmap to go from where you are to where you want to be. So when we combined our goals and kind of went through that, then it became much easier to say, this is where we want to go. This is our next step. And these are what we're each going to do to get there.
That's great. It's so funny because you and I sound very alike in like having all these ideas and getting so ramped up and excited about them and presenting them to my husband and yes dear. And then he thinks it's going to blow over and like go away.
Yeah, well, and the biggest thing that I've learned from that, especially with entrepreneurs or people that kind of build side hustles, we've gone through a certain journey to have the epiphany, and then we want to fast track our spouse.
Right.
And we don't allow them to go on their own journey to have their own epiphany. That's one of the biggest things that we do with helping other people now is to say, hey, I know you're excited, but let's help your spouse get on the same page so you guys can do this together.
Exactly. I remember, I was so excited about it, and he just kind of was placating me about it. But it was when I got on personal capital and started putting in all of the information, and even I was blown away, and that really got me on fire about it. Like this can really happen, and that's when I showed it to him. I said, "Look, this is what we can have if we do X, Y." And for him to see that end game, that end number, that's what got him. And so he still lets me go on my little crazy,
Well,
he's on board.
And what we found is I kept trying to, I'm a very logical person. So I would explain the numbers to her and how if we bought this many houses, we'd be able to do this thing. And it wasn't until we tied it back to what she did.
Right.
So when it was like, if we buy this many houses, you can leave your job and do what you want. She's like, oh, I get it. Now I'm on board. But when I was just talking the money piece, it wasn't connected back to what that would enable for us. Exactly.
Emotional motivation.
Yeah.
That's
and
awesome.
so now with everything we do, because we're aligned on what the motivation is, and for us, it was first financial freedom for our family, and then beyond that, it's the bigger impact of helping other people like us, other couples and other families achieve the same.
I think that's so well aligned with what our goal is, and that is to let families know that financial independence is for everyone. We all have different roads to get there, but everyone, it's for everyone. It's all inclusive.
Yeah, well, and when we started Lifestyle Builders, we talk a lot about entrepreneurship, but we're releasing a book next year, and the entrepreneurship stuff doesn't come until section 3, because section 1 is get aligned on what you want out of life. Section 2 is get your personal finances and debt in order. And then, section 3 is build your business. But the same thing applies if you have a career, because once you get your life aligned and your finances in order, then whatever you end up doing can support that.
That's a great transition, because one of the questions I was going to ask you is starting a business forever?
I don't think starting a business is, but what I do think everyone should do is look to diversify where they can bring. Because what happens to a lot of people, let's say you love your job. You may love your job now, but you never know what's going to happen in the future. And if your only option for income is your job, if something suddenly changes, you're stuck. So what we always recommend people do is to set themselves up with as many options as they can. And most people these days have some sort of a side hustle or a way to make some additional. Some of it comes from a financial perspective. Some of it's just a passion outside of your work. But what we find with entrepreneurs is that they typically have to be a little bit more self-motivated. Usually, a lot of people think entrepreneurs are risky. They're actually not. Most entrepreneurs take very calculated risks. But what we always tell people is figure out what you want out of life and then look at the different paths to get there. And it might be being an entrepreneur, starting a business. It might just be doing something different with your career or your job.
And then what are some of the common critical overlooked first steps?
So for starting a business or?
Right.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurship.
One of the biggest mistakes that most people make, and we made it multiple times, you don't learn the first time,
Right.
is most people think there's this whole story of oh, well, I was in the shower and I got this great idea and then I went and launched a product and I made all this money. The reality of how most successful businesses start is not with an idea, but instead wanting to serve a group of people. Mm-hmm. So when we tried to launch a couple businesses, we would first focus on the product. And we made this course one time to help people start their business. And we sold 2 of them. After we spent $1,000 on equipment and making all these videos, what we found was we had to first get really clear on who we wanted to help. And then we talked to those people. We understood what they were looking for.
Right.
And then from there, we could then build the right product or the right business to serve them.
Right.
So the first thing I would say is figure out who it is that you want to help, and then just spend time talking and understanding on what they need and how you can.
And then
Yep. And then from there, you can put the business together. Like we have most people fill out this 1-page business plan called a lean canvas. And it basically goes through like 9 different pieces. So who are your customers? What problems do they have? What's unique about your business? What solutions can you come up with to solve the problems? How do you make money? How much money will it cost? And then just a couple other things. But what that will allow you to do is then test it out. Because the biggest mistake we make is we assume our idea is good, but there's usually a lot of holes in it, and we got to tweak it before it ultimately works.
Right. And even then, there's probably lots of tweaking after.
Absolutely. It's an ongoing tweaking.
What are some of the financial advice that you have for people who are contemplating starting a business?
One of the first things is keep your day job as long as you can. So we find a lot of people, they want to start a business because they're not happy with their life and maybe the job that they're at. And what a lot of people do is they end up leaving too soon, and then they put a lot of financial pressure on themselves, and they maybe make decisions that they wouldn't have made if they had a stable paycheck. So for most people, you're better off staying in your job as long as you can to build up savings and to give your business time to work through all those tweaks that it's going to bear. And then once you go through that and you either get your side income up where it replaces your income, or you have enough savings to build a long runway so you give yourself enough time, then you can leave.
And so where are you and Ariana now as far as like your financial journey? Are you close to getting financially independent? Are you there? Are you in the thick of things still?
Yep. So let me ask you, how would you define financial independence?
Financial independence for me is, I think debt-free is one of them. I'm not necessarily having met our savings goal for retirement, but so that I don't have to work. I don't want to, and my choice.
Yep. So I'd say we're pretty close. So we've both been able to leave our jobs. We draw an income and profit from all 3 of our businesses. Yes. The first 2 businesses, we spend about 4 hours a month, and they're set up to run without us. Our third business,
still the wine,
the real estate business, and the wine and liquor store. And then it's actually interesting that you say that, because I remember when I talked about retiring.
Yeah.
I had a mentor a couple of years ago say, Tom, quit saying you're going to retire, because you're not going to retire. What you're going to do is have the option to do what you want, when you want, how you want, with who you want.
Exactly.
And so we are at a point now, we haven't paid off our house yet, but we paid off, at one point we had like over $220,000 worth of debt. We paid off the majority of that. The house is really the big one that's left. But what's been cool is that we're drawing income from all these different sources, and we'll continue coaching and helping people because we've shifted away, like we're now covered. So now it's away from financial freedom for us and more the impact we're going to make in helping other people.
That's so awesome. Okay, so we are nearing the end of the show, and so one of the things that we do on the show is we have 2 final closeout questions, and one is, what was one financial decision, not financial decision, but what was one financial lesson you had growing up, good or bad, that you carried over into this journey?
Yeah, I'd say the biggest thing, which I knew it, and then I still ran into the issue, was personal debt is bad. And my mother got into a lot of debt, and that caused a lot of issues. And I was dead set on avoiding that. And then it just shows how easy it is to fall into that when, you go to college and you come up with loans, and then instead of delaying gratification, you end up putting things on credit cards and high interest ones. So as much as you can avoid the bad personal financial debt, the better off you will be.
And you have 2 children, right?
Correct.
And how old are they?
Our daughter is 6 and our son is 3.
I've got 6.
Wow.
But
kudos to you.
The little ones are 8, 7, 5, and 4. So
you have your hands full.
Yes, very. So, but let's say your kids are maybe just a little bit older and you have their undivided attention. They're listening to what Daddy says. What is one piece of advice that you would convey to your children that you would want them to carry over into adulthood?
Absolutely. Get super clear on what you want and follow that path. I think a lot of us fall into what we think society tells us we should do, or we do things because we think that's what we're supposed to. But the biggest thing we've seen in other people that are happy is that they get clear on what they want. They just follow that path, even if it's unconventional. And when you go to like pay off debt or maybe start a business, a lot of people aren't going to understand. But if that's what you want to do, follow that, because there's more opportunity than ever to become financially free, to start a business or a side hustle, or to even advance in your career the way you want to.
Right. And then what is the best way for people to find you?
So our home base online is tomandariana.com. And from there, people can find our Lifestyle Builders podcast. When the book comes out in a couple of months, that'll be there. And then they can connect with social and everything else from there.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show, Tom. I appreciate it. Lots of good stuff there.
All right, thank you. I love talking about this.
Thank you. Well, House of Five family, that brings this episode to a close. If you've liked what you've heard, please subscribe in iTunes, as well as any of the other platforms you've found us on. We're on just about all of them. Also, please leave us a written review. They help us to know what you're liking about the show, what we can do better. And for every 5 reviews we receive, that's written reviews, we will give away one of our favorite reads, and that is currently Kids' Money Habits by Amy Coit. It's a great book full of great information, both for parents and kids. Don't forget to check out our show notes on the webpage. There is always bonus information there that didn't make it to the show, and we strive to create good content on there. So please head on over to the website and check that out. Finally, you can find us on Facebook. You can either like our page or you can become part of our Facebook group. It's a private group, and in there we have ongoing discussions about each episode as well as other topics within the FI community. It's a way for us to get to know each other better and for Tamika and I to learn exactly what you want to hear more of or questions that you have that we can address with upcoming guests. Again, thank you for listening. Come back next week. We're glad you're here.